The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
Welcome to East Africa's greatest source for edutainment. This is the Great Debaters Contest, Nyeri region. I am Austin Nyombok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Today, St. Mary's La Salle Academy goes versus Chinga Secondary School on whether media coverage of civil protests should be outlawed. We have the first proposer take the stage now. You have 3 minutes.
How far that little candle throws its beams, so shines a good deed in a naughty world. How far that little candle dazzles its beam, so does the media shine in coverage of civil protests. That, therefore, leaves me, Jefferson Ngoge of St. Mary's Boys High School, at crossroads, and I must either leave or choose to stick by it. After lingering over the choice, I have decided the road that I should finally take, that of proposing this motion that media coverage on civil protests is a threat to national security and should be outlawed. For us to go through this motion, we need to get the core by understanding basic definitions of terms in the motion. We have media coverage. What is media coverage? Media coverage is the reporting of news via major ways such as TV, radio, or access to a social internet, and most people receive information through such means. Then, what is civil protests? Civil protests are expressions of strong disagreements or opposition towards something or someone. It may be in form of an action or even in form of a statement. One of the most indispensable terms in the motion, again, is threat. And what is a threat? A threat is a factor that is likely to provoke danger, trouble, or disaster, while to outlaw is to issue a ban or restriction towards something. Well, civil protests may take a three-dimensional point of view. That is, they may revolve around social, economic, or political perspectives. So I will choose to take the social point of view. And one of the most unforgettable experiences that we can recall that has happened in the recent past is a social civil protest in form of a slogan. And that slogan was, "My dress, my choice." Well, the coverage of this slogan in the media raised a series of heated debate and evoked a lot of emotion. Reason being, images, posters, clips and videos spread like bushfire, showing how this innocent victim was stripped off naked just because the public did not approve of her mode of dressing. Days after, we had other cases being reported. It is true to say that the media is not entirely to blame about all this, but it is vividly clear that the media has played an incitement role in the recurrence of these undignified activity. What does this imply? Owing to the fact that the media coverage has brought this to the limelight, the next time I adorn myself and the public won't approve of it, my security is at stake. These will then in turn stimulate a national crisis and thus will be a national security threat. To our opponents, we may speak less than thou knowest, but definitely we have more than thou showest. Thank you.
Chinga Secondary will hear your opening statements. You have 3 minutes.
I am a fighter. I am at war. The battle is waiting for me to win, and I have to. Come rain, come sunshine, I must win. I need support in order to walk out a winner. So how? How do I get this support if we don't have the media? Media coverage is the airing of events or situations in the media, like we have the TVs. Civil protest is an action or way, statement of opposing or expressing your views against something or someone or a certain situation. Come to think about it. There's this fighter in the remotest part of Kenya airing his views that he needs a title deed for his farm or for his piece of land. if he doesn't have the media on his side to air his views, so then how is the government going to be able to address his issues? My first point, dissemination of information. I have to pass my information to more of the people in my country. I have to let people know what I want or what I wish to have. I have a right that need to be addressed. So how do I disseminate, how do I send this information if at all I don't have the media by my side? So then, why outlaw media coverage of civil protests? Constitutional amendments. Just the other day, we had our country, a constitutional amendment in the country that said, that others were allowed in Kenya, or rather, the fact that people don't believe in God was legal. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, people in the church protested in a kind of a civil protest, and it was outdone only for the government to say that let us leave that to the court to decide. So tell me, why not for the impact of the media or the use of the media? How could it have been possible if the people were just quiet and nobody was able to view or to see their wants? We need the media in order to make good constitutional amendments like that one that was made. Think about international influence, especially when it comes to protests against negative things. I'll give an example of FGM. In order for Kenya to get international support in the protest against FGM, it took the hand, or it took the participation of the media, like maybe you can say, for example, the CNN, to broadcast this to the whole world, and the people are able to know, the people in other countries were able to know that they need support. And therefore, instead of bringing the issue of security threat or national security threat in our country, it brought peace and brought attention from other people to our situation. Think about it, talk about it. For our rights to be addressed, for us to survive, we need the media. So why outlaw its coverage? Thank you.
St. Mary's LaSalle, you have 3 minutes to give your rebuttal.
To be valiant is to stand, while to move is to stir. Therefore, if thou art moved, thou runnest away. This is why I, Ian Matindi from St. Mary's Boys High School, have chosen to be valiant and stand for this motion that states that media coverage of civil protest is a threat to national security and that it should be outlawed. Now, one of the opposers say that they are a fighter, and I'd like to tell them that in civil protests, we do not need fighters. We need fighters in riots. In civil protests, we need people with logic, people with intellect, people who are able to reason. And still, you're talking about international influence. I'd like to tell you one thing. During the Boston Marathon in 2012, there was a bombing. This is because this media that you claim is good, that helps in international influence. It informed the terrorists of where people were, hotspots for attacks, and thus, boom, people died. Tell me, is this really what you want? Now, I'm sure that all of you know that money makes the world go round. And I'm sure that everyone in this hall with a couple of billy trillies would get one or two things to do. For me especially, I like the Aston Martin, especially the Aston Martin one. This is a machine. It's got 1,000 horsepower, 4-wheel drive, auto transmission. And as an investor who wants to buy this Aston Martin, I'd like to tell you one thing. I would never dare to take my money to a country where I see there is unrest, to a country where each and every waking day, the media shows me pictures, shows me videos of riots going on in the country, of protests going on in the country. I would be wary of my money. Still, currently, there is the IEBC row going on by the opposition, which wants the IEBC officials to step down. Every Monday and Thursday, they have civil protests in the capital, Nairobi. The GEMA, that is the Gikuyu Embu Meru Association, which owns the Nairobi Safari Club, released a press statement saying that the business has been dwindling. And The reason for their dwindling business is because of this protests that go on. Jubilee Coalition members and members of the Matatu Association of Kenya took a burnt chassis of a car up to Capitol Hill protesting about this civil protest. Now tell me, is this really what you want the media to do? Still, travel advisories tell their citizens, please don't come to Kenya. Why? This is because they're not sure of the security of their citizens. Now, to the opposers, I'd like to invite you to a ride in this Aston Martin of mine with 1,000 horsepower. And as I conclude, I'd like to tell you one thing. Brother, won't you come my way? Thank you.
Opposition will hear your rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
From Chinga Boys High School, I am Daniel Kariambori. Okay, my dear opponent, you say that lately there have been protests against the IEBC. I do agree, but also, when you get to see people protesting against IEBC, when you get to see your leaders protesting against a certain subject, you get to draw a character trait from your leader. You get to understand your leader. You get to know your leader properly. When the media shows such kind of protests, we as citizens of a certain country, we are able to know our leaders properly. And we, during our next elections, obviously, we are different. The way I see things is not the way you see things. So when we get to see our leaders protesting, we get to know their character traits. And this will help us as citizens of our country to choose our leaders wisely. On to my first point. I like to say that when the media covers civil protests, it's not a threat to national security at all and should not be outlawed. Tell me, when children want their field, is that a threat to national security? When nurses cry for their rights, is that a threat to national security? The media helps to inform the government that maybe it has neglected a certain group. When the media shows that nurses are crying for their rights, that nurses want an increase of their salary, that even teachers want an increase of their salary, it helps them to come sit down and realize that there's something they neglected and sort that issue immediately. So I say that this should not be outlawed at all. Also, it helps bring unity among people. You see, when the media shows civil protest against a certain subject, for example, when the media shows civil protest, when teachers strike, and the media shows this on air, teachers from other areas get to know that, yeah, these teachers have a point, and they get to join other teachers, and they get united to cry for their rights. I rest my case and say that media coverage on civil protest, it's not a threat at all to the national security and should not be outlawed. Thank you.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register. The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.
Thank you, audience, for those questions. The proposers have been asked if the media does not cover civil protests, then how will the public get to know about them when they happen? And the opposition have been asked, are they not aware of the negative consequences of covering civil protests, especially to foreign media and to the outside world? We'll have them respond. Proposal number 3, you have 3 minutes.
The media is the most powerful entity on the planet. Why? Because we are all used to it. You see something interesting, you tweet it. The media has the power to make the guilty innocent and the innocent guilty. I am Ian Kimani, St. Mary's Boys, and I'm here to propose the motion, media cover on civil protest is a threat to national security and should be outlawed. But before I go there, there's a question that has been posed to us that I would like to answer. She asked, how else will we know about the civil protest if they're not covered? Such information will be restricted to localized channel. The protest does not need to go national. And to tell you why civil protests and media covering them should be abolished, I will tell you a bit about the media cover. Media coverage will always or mostly be from one person's point of view, meaning it will be biased. And once it's biased, we'll have prejudgment in other parts of the country. For example, we had a civil protest in Nairobi. The protest was about the IEBC and the officials being told to turn down. The protest was covered by journalists who defined it as violent, who defined it as outright, and who defined it as something that is a threat to us and our national security. The people in Kisumu decided to do a protest on the same. But because the journalists in Nairobi had already covered it as violent, the police who were there were prepared. Before even the protest began, they were armed. They were armed and ready to take them down because they considered them dangerous. It incites a lot of violence. In the same protest that we had in Nairobi, we had a person W. A person W was coming just out of work. He passed through the protest and his car was stopped. He had to come out. A person X comes right from the blue, knocks him out for no reason at all. This person goes home and instead of feeling guilty about what he's done, he tweets it. Another person in Kisumu sees the tweet. The following day, there's a protest. As he goes there, he's frustrated. His life, it isn't that much well. His wife is giving him stress. He has troubles with his job. What else can he do? He can't take it out on his wife. So he'll take it out on someone who's a complete stranger. He goes to a protest, knocks someone out, hits him, point blank, for no reason at all. This has been fueled by the media. The media, in some instances, have their own flaws. They have some inaccuracies in what they produce to us as the Kenyans. This is because they may not have completely reliable sources. Some mistakes are left uncorrected because once they make a mistake and it goes viral, they will take it as an opportunity for fame. The media houses are always competing, and once they're at the top, they know that they are currently making money. And as my fellow proposer had said, we all love money. There is no reason why they will correct it. The media is prone to sensationalism. They always cover the same things day in, day out. We will always hear about corruption. We will always hear about sex scandals. Why? This is because these are the things we want to hear. And by covering this, they tend to avoid or cover less the more important issues. Ignorance is the curse of God. Knowledge is the wing wherewith we fly to heaven. I would advise the opposers to join us in heaven.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
Okay, on to the first question asked. Yeah, you asked if FGM, when they were covering when they were covering the protest against FGM, but this actually, if you come to think of it, it is actually good because for one, it helped us to. Oh, sorry, pardon about that. Okay, so the first point was that FGM. So it helped us to know about our problems. Yes, it's true. FGM is there in Kenya. And that is no lie about it. Because for one, going to the communities that are still back in their old habits of FGM and things of the sort. Because this is a real problem. And it needs to be exposed. And we need to eradicate it with any means possible. That is, we need help from everywhere, from all the sides that we can get. And to the next question asked was about the hotbed of terror. For this, I say it covered the attention of the foreign countries. For one, place yourself in their shoes. No, let me give you a good example. Who among you do watch Al Jazeera? who among you would like to go to Iraq? Why? No, please, who among you would like to go to Iraq? Because for one, these countries have been called a hotbed of terror. Because for one, the citizens of the country, they are concerned about their life. And for one, in Kenya, being called a hotbed of terror, it has helped us to improve our securities. Just the other day, the president launched some of heavy machinery to counter terrorism. But all for what? Because the media covered on these stories. Okay, on my first proposal, he said that and I hope the ladies will help me in this. He said that the protest about my dress, my choice I think it's immoral or something. But I think you did not do your research quite well, because what was the reason behind airing this? For one, it showed us that there is a problem in Kenya. For one, I mean, come on, how can women go around stripping ladies for what they wear? No. No. Seriously. Because for one, media coverage has helped us to expose the kind of problems we have in the society. Take for example my dress, my choice. This is a simple case where the media is able to capture the attention of the whole country and show us that in this part of the society, we have a problem and it needs to be eradicated. With that, I raise my case and I want to urge them, please, walk with us in the light. This one.
Closing submissions now. Proposers, you have a minute.
Ian's dream of owning a slick, smart, Porsche 1000 power Aston Martin is at stake. But hope lies within if we desist from speaking ill of our country through media coverage of civil protests. This is because all it does is to demean and strip off our country for all and sundry to ridicule. See, as we said, we speak less than thou knowest, lend less than thou owest, ride more than thou goest, learn more than thou throwest, set less than thou throwest. And remember, to our opponents, God gave you one face and you make yourself another. Join us on this side of good life, and we promise you it will be the best face ever. And when you are there, you can tweet it in heaven because we got free Wi-Fi there.
Opposition, you have a minute as well.
The fight continues. We all need help. And if we don't use the media to articulate or to air and spread our needs, our views, as we protest, it won't work. And if we do so, it will help us to create unity among people who are quarreling. A protest in one part of a nation against a certain aspect of government or life, aired, we live and create unity for good governance. We need the media to create national unity, to air our needs, and to help us articulate our needs as we do our protests. Join us to go on in the right way. Asante.
I think I liked Jefferson's beginning, and you caught many of us off guard because the angle that you took was not what many of us had actually thought about or expected. And that was really brilliant on your part. And then, of course, you point us towards the continuous coverage of such protests would make this the norm and also then endanger the lives of other people. And so that was a brilliant angle that you took. But I guess for me, the challenge is that the rest of the team was not able to pick up the momentum and carry through with the motion. Chinga boys, Richard, I loved your beginning, and you actually invoke the Constitution, the right to access to information as a basic, as enshrined in the Constitution, and the freedom of expression. But just like St. Mary's, that the rest of the team is not able to pick up and carry through with what you were saying. And so what I felt was that there was a lack of research to be able to thoroughly execute the motion. And for me, the performance was average by the two teams.
To the scores now. St. Mary's High School, Chinga Boys High School. You have tied at 68%. Please give both teams a round of applause.
Congratulations to the two teams on stage, and thank you, our studio audience, for being very, very active. And our viewers back home, thank you for watching, and kindly follow us on Twitter at Great Debaters EA. I am Austin Nyumbok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest 2016 registration is now open. Teachers or school administrations should register on www.greatdebaterscontest.com/register.